Ladies and gentlemen, the NBA draft lottery was yesterday. All right. Some very interesting things happened. As always, it's the draft lottery, okay? It doesn't tend to be dull or run of the mill. All right. There are quite a few things I've seen on the internet since the draft lottery that I just, people saying things about the Pacers, for example. How they have utterly, they've fallen flat on their face in front of everybody because of this trade. They traded away what ended up being the 5th pick in this draft. I've seen some takes about that I don't really agree with. I've seen some people say things about the Wizards and the Jazz that I don't really agree with. But let's start with something that I find sad. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know a Sacramento Kings fan, check in on them. Okay, ask them if they want to go get some ice cream or something, because they need to be cheered up. The Sacramento Kings, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 18 years old. The Kings have made the playoffs one time in my entire life. If I'm not mistaken, they've only made the playoffs one time in my entire life, and that was 3 years ago in 2023. All right, when they started lighting the beam at the end of their games, and they lit that beam 53 times that year. And then, I don't know if they've lit it 53 times since. But the worst team for the last 20 years never gets this pick, bro. The worst ran organization with some great fans never gets the first pick in the draft lottery. Somehow, some way, somehow. I went into this lottery hoping that the Kings would get the first pick. All right, I'm not no Kings fan, but I feel really bad for them. And they got the 7th pick. They got the 7th pick in this draft. Wow. But the first pick, who got that first pick that I've been talking about? Well, that first pick was the Washington Wizards, the worst team in basketball this season. And number 2 was the Jazz. Now, a lot of people have been saying, who would want to play for these teams? You know what I'm saying? Feel bad for whoever gets drafted to Utah. I saw someone say, all these rookies might as well just go back to college, because who wants to play in Washington? And it's like, y'all, first of all, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? This is literally what the draft is for. The draft is for these players to get drafted to bad teams, and then when the players do get drafted to bad teams, unlike last year, where like every team who was a top 3 pick would have been in the playoffs if it, would have more than likely been in the playoffs if it wasn't for injuries, and everyone was like, wow, why are these teams getting all the picks? Now it's these trash teams, and people are like, why would anyone want to play for them? Besides the fact this is the point of the draft, to draft players to bad teams so those teams can get better. Why would a rookie not want to go play for either the Wizards or the Jazz? All right, because the Wizards just traded a bucket of chicken and a buttered biscuit for Anthony Davis, one of the 75 greatest players of all time. And they traded for Trae Young. And they've got a bunch of great young players. The Wizards are going to be more than likely in the playoffs next year. Same thing with the Jazz. You tell me the Jazz aren't going to be good next year with a top... both these teams. Forget about the picks. Forget about having the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft. All right. Both of these teams, even if they didn't have those picks, would probably make the playoffs next year. At a certain point, you're too good to not make the playoffs, all right? Or at least the play-in. You're telling me the Jazz with Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ace Bailey, Keontae George, Walker Kessler, that's starting 5? That's going to miss the playoffs? I don't think so. Same thing with the Wizards. And then you add the 1st and 2nd overall picks, AJ Debance, Darren Peterson. You add them to those teams, they're probably going to make the playoffs, y'all. Number 3 pick went to the Grizzlies. To be honest, this is who I feel bad for. Why would anyone want to play for the Grizzlies is what I'm asking. NBA players don't even want to play in Memphis, first of all. NBA players don't even want to play in Memphis. Adam Silver doesn't even want the Grizzlies to play in Memphis. He wants them to go play in Nashville. occasionally, and then maybe permanently. You know? So that's who I feel bad for, whoever gets drafted by the Grizzlies. Then the Chicago Bulls got the 4th pick. The Chicago Bulls. When I saw that they were going to be top 4, I was so happy. At that point, the Kings were already 7th, so I'm like, oh, the Bulls, they should get the 1st pick, you know? And then they got the 4th pick, but, you know, it's whatever, okay? It's good. They're going to get someone cool. The Clippers. The Clippers get the 5th pick, a pick traded to them by the Pacers, who were garbage this season, and their pick was top 4 protected. It fell just one spot below the top 4. And now the Clippers have made off with Ben Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, the 5th pick in the 2026 draft, an unprotected 1st in 2029, I think, and then a 2nd-round pick somewhere in there as well. And everyone's acting like this is a bad trade, you know, because I guess maybe if you just look at it, the number of assets they gave up for just Zubats, yeah, maybe you can look at it and be like, oh, that's a bad trade. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a bad trade for the Pacers. Apparently everyone just thinks the Pacers are going to be bad next year too, and I don't understand that at all. Like I saw some dude say, yeah, the Pacers are cooked. They're not going to be good next year. One guy got injured and their whole team started playing terribly. Like, okay, first of all, it's more than just they don't have Tyrese Halliburton anymore. I don't think Siakam, Pascal Siakam, Aaron Nesmith, and Andrew Nembhard, Obi Toppin, I don't think any of those guys played. Well, I know most of those guys didn't even play 60 games. I don't think any of them played 65. Obi Toppin played like 20. You know, like their team was more than just Tyrese Halliburton being injured. The whole team was injured a lot of part of the year. It was more than just they don't have Tyrese Halliburton. And also, they were kind of losing on purpose. Okay, you know, like, you know, so I don't understand why everyone thinks they're going to be trash just because they don't have a pick in this year's draft. I mean, would they be better if they did? Yeah, probably, but I guarantee you, by the time the playoffs start next year, no one's even going to remember this trade, okay? No one's even going to be thinking about, wow, the Clippers traded away, not the Clippers, the Pacers traded away the 5th pick. They traded away the 5th pick for Ivica Zubac, a guy who is better now, especially. He's better now than Miles Turner is. And he's probably better than Miles Turner was when the team went to the finals. Next season, their starting lineup is going to be Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and Ivica Zubac. That's literally 4 of those 5 guys are the exact same players that they just had when they went to the finals, not even a full year ago. And the guy that they traded for in this trade, Ivica Zubac, is a better player, is a better center than the center they had when they went to the finals. So it's like, what are we talking about? Like, I guarantee the Pacers are going to be a top 6 team in the East next season. By the time the playoffs come around next year, no one's even going to remember the Pacers traded the 5th pick because no one's going to care because they're going to be a good team. And I wouldn't be shocked if they went back to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, like, you know, I don't understand why everyone's like trying to say this trade was terrible. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm just not of the opinion that this trade is bad for the Pacers. I've never been of that opinion. When it happened, I wasn't of that opinion, and since they've lost the pick, I'm still not of that opinion. I think it's a good trade, to be honest. But, you know, the Nets have the 6th pick. So good for them, I guess. You know, you do all that tanking just to not even have a top 5 pick. Kings, we already talked about it, the 7th. The 8th pick could have been the New Orleans Pelicans, but they traded their pick away to Atlanta, who now have the 8th pick in the draft, along with a pretty decent roster that has a lot of potential. They're a team with a lot of potential. Now they've got the 8th pick in the draft. You know, they should be interesting to watch next year, as should the Mavericks, who will now have a top 10 pick for the 2nd year in a row. You know, good for them. Cooper Flagg can, you know, get some Maybe he'll get a Robin to his Batman, perhaps, or maybe the Mavericks will just draft a complete bust. That's kind of the way it's kind of the way. Aside from the fact they lucked out and got the first pick in the draft last year, that's basically that would be pretty business as usual for the Mavericks as of the last 15 months. The Bucks got the 10th pick. They're going to draft a new star player. They're going to trade Giannis, and they're going to get this new star player, and he's going to lead them back to the NBA Finals. No, probably not. You know who's probably not going to do anything with their pick? The Warriors. The Warriors, not that good of a drafting team in the 2020s, to be completely honest, and I think that'll stay the way. The Thunder got the 12th pick. Oh man, I wish they got the 14th pick. I'll be honest. It's 2026, and they're still getting picks from the Clippers from a trade that happened 7 years ago. Is that not crazy? And it's a lottery pick. A lot of them have been lottery picks because the Clippers ain't been that good in the 7 years since. The Miami Heat got the 13th pick. I wish they would just completely rebuild. I'm so sick of the Miami Heat being painfully mediocre every year. And the Hornets got the 14th pick. The Charlotte Hornets will make the playoffs next year. They might even win a series, okay? That's like, I said earlier, hey, the Jazz, the Wizards, they're becoming too good to not be good teams, essentially. And that's basically the same thing for the Hornets, except we've already seen the Hornets be a good team. Basically all 2026, they were fantastic. They just happened to lose a play-in game and didn't make the playoffs, which was very unfortunate, and I wish they did. But they're going to be adding to a team that already has LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, Musa Diabate, Miles Bridges. Great team they got. They're going to be adding more to it. Kobe White's on the team, The Hornets are going to be fun to watch next year. And I know that because they're already fun to watch. I mean, they're already fun to watch, and they're probably even going to get more fun, That's what we like to see. We like to see fun basketball. I love seeing LaMelo Ball just cash the silliest three-point shots of all time. It's great. But the draft lottery, there it is. What are your thoughts on it?